Okay, excellent. Thank you for helping me out. Okay, well, first thing I always like to do is thank Joy. Joy always is so supportive, and the DIR is always so supportive of our Texas Teams community. She sometimes needs to remind me, hey, Michael, your community's coming up. Have you sent out the invite yet? So I appreciate, one, her partnership, and also sometimes she just gives me a little friendly nudge in the ribs. So thank you, Joy. So we have created, and one of our other communities, our Power Apps or Power Platform community, created what they called a community interest list. And so we have created a community interest list. And what this is right now, I'm just taking everybody that's been in previous meetings. And when people ask me, hey, could you invite me to the meeting? Then I just add them to the Outlook invite. But we want to give people the ability to express their interest, to say that they want to be invited to meetings and get notifications. And then if someone wants to opt out, we want to have them the ability to opt out. And so we've created this list. It's using Microsoft Forms. So you can point your smartphone at the screen and turn on your camera. And if you point it at the QR code, we're all getting a lot better at this because a lot of the restaurants are using this for their menus. But if you point it at this, then it will bring up the interest list, and you just type in your name, the agency you're with. I think it may ask for your title, and the critical thing is your email address. And then you can, there's a add or remove. And even if you're already here, if you don't mind adding yourself, that would be great. And if you are interested in not ever hearing from me again and getting an invitation to this, and you keep getting them, then you can just say remove, and I'll take you off of the list. You can also type this in. This is a URL shortener, Teams Community Interest, and you will get the same form. At the end of this, we're going to have an evaluation. And so I normally have the evaluation and sign in at the beginning. So I'll have that at the end for those of you who would, if you would please sign in. That's a way we can kind of track who attended the meeting and how many people we have. Right now, we've got a little bit over 100, probably about 110 people in the meeting. So as I said, we have a lot that we're going to cover. First thing we're going to do is welcome and update on Teams usage and features. I'm already a minute overdue on that, so we'll kind of blast through it a little bit because we're going to cover that a lot more in the section on the Ignite conference. After this quick intro, we're going to be getting to visit with Jessica Trinetz, and Jessica and I got to meet a few months ago. And she is now the U.S. lead for the customer success training program. And she's going to tell us about this big expansion and really great things going on. Several of our agencies and the DIR have participated in this, and we've done some really broad training. So some very exciting announcements there. We're going to talk about the Ignite conference. I'm not going to just drain everything that happened there. That would not be possible, but I'm also going to send out a PDF of the information of all the different sessions on Teams. And then we've gotten a lot of positive feedback that y'all like the stories from the field. Last month, we had the city of Austin and David Gottlieb. Months ago, we had Merritt Schrader from the teacher retirement system. And so we're going to really endeavor to have a customer example each month. And so if you are interested in highlighting something that y'all are doing, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy or super complex. But if there's something that you're doing that's interesting, use case of Teams, especially if you're doing anything with some automations or using it as a platform, we're real interested in sharing that with our community. So today we're going to have the Texas Department of Transportation talking about, and this wouldn't fit, their virtual emergency operations center. So that'll be some very cool usage to share with y'all. Quickly, I spoke about this last month. We have an audio conferencing promotion. This has been approved by the DIR. And so this is the audio conferencing feature so that when you schedule a Teams meeting, it will add in an audio line for people to dial from if they're using a home telephone or if they just don't have a good internet connection, but they can make a phone connection and they can dial into a Teams meeting. These are not for live events. And so people don't dial into live events. You have to attend a live event via a browser or the Teams client, but these are really great for Teams meetings and really expands the number of people that can join and the scenarios you can join from. It is provided at no charge, so also known as free, and that will be for the next 3 years or the end of your agreement. For most of you who purchase off of the DIR DCS agreement, we will be starting this in December because that's after the anniversary date that is December 1. Which means you'll get 3 full years of no charge for audio conferencing. So if you're paying for another audio conferencing service, this would be a great way to save some money. If you're paying for another a system like Teams, where you're having to pay additional money for conferencing, that's something that you won't have to pay for anymore. This thing about must achieve 20% Teams meeting adoption, most of you are already at 50% or more. That just means that 50% of your, or 20% of your people are using Teams is the bar within the first 6 months. And so again, I think all of you that are using Teams are already there. And as it says, it's available until January 31st. What that means is we'll get you signed up before January 31st. Several of you reached out at the end of the last meeting in September and let me know you were interested. We followed up with you. If you want to send me an email, there's my email address right here at the top. So you can let me know that you would like more information on that. And that's really for your decision makers, your IT admins, you know, your leadership to make that decision. If you are with an agency and you don't see any of your leadership in this meeting, you might want to just let them know about this. But we are doing broad outreach through the DIR.
You're an IT and IT.
Yeah. And someone is not on mute. I think it's so if you're if I don't want to mute everybody, but you
Michael,
go back on.
I know you're trying to move quickly, but there's a couple of things we might need to address right now. One is, which customers are you talking about? Is that primarily the agencies or everybody? And then also, how does this fit into state agencies' ability to use something other than our AT&T?
Yeah, Joy, thanks. No, those are great questions. So and we're fine on time. So so this is available to all customers from Microsoft worldwide. So this is not just a Texas thing. It's not just a DIR DCS contract thing. If you're in education, if you're you have to purchase through an enterprise agreement. And any of you who are with a major agency or with an educational institution or city, local, county, you purchase through an enterprise agreement. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, and I'm hearing an echo of myself. The second thing is that this is not telephony. And so in other words, you're not using Teams as your soft phone. That is what is not allowed by the legislature due to the AT&T contract. So this does not conflict with that. This is just audio conferencing, not telephony where you're using a dial pad and you're using Teams. Teams does have that capability. We're not allowed through the DCS program. If you're not in the DCS program, then you are able to use Teams, and we have a cloud PBX, and you can use it as a phone. And so it can kind of be your end-all phone and meeting and collaboration and conferencing system. Joy, do you think that answers all the questions?
Yeah, I mean, you do have some others. It kind of depends on how many other questions you can take, but I thought those clarifications were critical right now.
Let's see, and I don't see any.
I think there was some people are having trouble seeing captions. But it just kind of depends on how far afield you want to go at this point. Yeah,
it is possible that your IT team has turned off captions in your tenant. It is a setting, and so you might want to check in on that. Captioning this live captioning, it might be in preview mode still for you, but everybody should have that availability to for your teams. So I will keep moving forward, and I am looking at the chat, but I get distracted by that if I try to do that at the same time as presenting. So if you can let me know if any other questions come up, or Michael, Riley, and Sandra and Greg, if y'all can answer questions as we go. Yeah, does someone else have a question?
I think we're good.
Okay, thanks, Joy. Yeah, so we just want to say welcome to the team. We have, I've got my screen is a little bit too low here, so I have to pop up here. We've added almost 1,000 users inside of the state of Texas. That's not as fast a growth as we were having before, but a lot of our agencies are pretty broadly adopted. And so there are several major agencies who have not started using Teams yet. They already had a solution, and when COVID hit, they didn't want to switch over to Teams as well on top of everything else their employees were going through. But we do have several major agencies who are about to light up Teams, and so we should see some big numbers jumping again. I also cover the city of Austin. Really appreciate how many people at the city of Austin are using Teams. And so just want to say welcome to the team and welcome to the community. Appreciate y'all being here. So you may have heard about our conference called Microsoft Ignite. Previously, it was a conference that people attended in person. It was pretty expensive to go to, and it was in Las Vegas, I believe. And so this year, we hosted this as an all-digital conference. And so a really cool thing about that is that we did not charge for attendance. And now all of the sessions and all of the content is available on demand. And there is a really great site that has all of the information that was announced inside of Ignite. There's this thing called the Book of News. And so if you go to news.microsoft.com/Ignite 2020 Book of News, and I'll send these slides out afterward in a PDF, and this will be a hyperlink. Then what it will do is it will take you to, and let me find this slide and this screen and bring it up. It'll take you to this site. Are y'all seeing the Book of News on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So it'll take you to this site, and any area that you are interested in hearing about that is inside the Microsoft Cloud. We even announced, and Michael Riley, you'll correct me again here, that through Azure, we are now have a platform for helping NASA and space agencies control satellites or work with their satellites. And so just an amazing breadth of things that occurred. And if we go down to Microsoft 365 and you go to Teams, then it'll take you to a whole list of new features that are coming to Microsoft Teams. And so when you click on that, it'll just scroll right down, and then we can close that. So I'm going to go through a few of these and explain a little bit about what they are. And then I would invite y'all to come and to read about these and dig into more depth. Now, several of these announcements are things that will be coming later this year. Something that y'all have experienced who are in the GCC, the Government Community Cloud, is that there has been in the past a pretty lengthy delay between when something is launched or released and made available in the commercial cloud versus when it comes out into the Government Community Cloud. I'm very glad to say that that time has been decreasing. And as I spoke about last time, there was a top-down, meaning all the way up to Satya Nadella, our CEO, commitment to bringing that gap much smaller, and even toward what we call something called sim shipping, so simultaneous shipping. And we had our first feature in September, sim ship, which means it was turned on in the commercial cloud at the same time it was turned on in the government community cloud, which is just really awesome. Our government is so important to us. Everybody is going through so much right now, and it was not something that we were wanting to do to make the delays. There was just a lot of things that when major parts of the platform are released, they and new ways that the data is stored, or ways the data are stored or changed, or things that might have implications with regard to HIPAA or IRS 1075 or CGIS, then those need to go through a certification process. And so if it doesn't, and we're doing enhancements to a current part of the platform that doesn't need to be recertified, we are now significantly able to decrease that time gap. So several of you have asked me over the previous months, when are we going to get whiteboard in GCC? So what has happened is that whiteboard, the back-end architecture and where things are stored, is being changed, and because of that, it is having to go through a recertification, and we're literally waiting on the recertification process, and that is what is causing the long delay. And so that's the reason whiteboard is taking so long. Now I do, and I will include this, I do have a link that is really good about whiteboarding and brainstorming in Teams. And so this mentions several products. These are not Microsoft products, and I'm not endorsing any one of these, but these are technologies and products that work with Teams that you can use, and you can see are embedded right into Teams that you can use instead of whiteboard. InVision is one, Mural is another. We have some customers that are using both of those. Klaxoon, I have not used, but I have heard is also good. And then there's some really nice things around visualizing ideas using MindMeister and some other things that are included here. So lots that you can read about, and I will make sure and include that in the post-meeting notes. So back to the things that were announced let's see, let me get back to that book of news. So one of the things we've heard is that the meeting experience is we're missing some features, and so we are really working on some of the features in the meeting experience. Things like the breakout rooms, which we heard about, and we also have heard that when we're in a one-on-one call, as opposed to a group call like this, we want some of the same features, things like the transcription, the live captions, recording, and the ability to transfer between the Teams mobile app and the desktop app. So these are going to be coming to one-on-one calls as well as to the group calls. We are also adding end of meeting experience. And so when you use live events, many of you have used live events in the past, there at the end of the meeting, you're able to, or when you schedule a meeting, you're able to select the things that you want at the end of the meeting, like the recording, Q&A, the attendance report. And so now we're going to have a similar experience to that coming to Teams, so that you'll have all of the sort of bill of materials or assets that are created throughout the meeting that are available to you really easy at the end of the meeting. So I'm very excited about that. I think that's going to bridge the gap in some of the things that you all have been looking for. As we look at return to work and we look at coming back into buildings, we've been doing a lot of work around Teams displays. And so this kind of takes several categories. There are camera, they call them Teams rooms. There are Teams rooms for large rooms, for small rooms, for chat rooms, and then just a little kind of standalone where you have a camera and a microphone. So a whole scale on different kinds of room experiences. And we're even incorporating some logic and artificial intelligence into this, and incorporating our digital assistant Cortana, so that when you go into a meeting room, you can, instead of having to touch anything, you can say, Cortana, join the meeting. And the AI, a digital assistant, will actually join the meeting for you. And there is a capability that's coming that'll, again, probably be after the Christmas timeframe, where it can actually count how many people are in the room using the camera. And we'll say you've reached capacity for this room, and can even let people know that have not gotten into the meeting that the room is at capacity and you should join remotely. So those are some really interesting capabilities to keep us safe as we're coming back. And then they're also looking, we've released several new displays that are on the wall outside of the meeting room. So if you've ever seen those where you walk up and it says what meetings are taking place and when the next availability is, and even gives you the ability to book the room through that. So all of that, those kinds of screens are now available for native to Teams. So if you regularly recreate Teams for the same purposes, such as projects, or some cases here, this doesn't really apply to us as much, but retail management, collaboration, patient care, then there are Teams templates. So we made it easier to create new templates, so that when you create a new team, it will create the folder structure, the channels, put files in there, add team members. And so it makes it much easier with these repeatable processes to get yourself set up very quickly. InfoPane is going to be adding a lot more information about a team and who are the members of that, and really at a glance just make it easier to see what is going on inside of that actual team or channel. And then we are increasing the size limit for individual teams. So some of my customers here, like HHSC is one, they're not able to have all of their employees in a single team because there's too many of them. And so previously it was, I believe it was 5,000 or 10,000. And so now that size limit is going to be increasing to 25,000 members. So for all but HHSC, that will really encompass all of your employees. So you can have an all employee team site, and so that you can have broad communication from maybe top leadership. And so again, that can be locked down and controlled. but we'll now have that level of scale. And so we've already showcased and showed off some of the interesting things like together mode. There are also some different custom layouts that are going to be coming. So things like a newscaster mode where as opposed to my video being off screen right now, you would actually have my video superimposed over the screen. And also the ability. Yeah, who was that? Was that Billy?
Real excited.
I knew that was you, Billy. Yes, that's going to be great. So one of the challenges, and let me move my window. Sorry, here we go. One of the challenges when we're looking at something like this and we're sharing content, if I was sharing my content on here, then it would block out this whole screen. And so what we're going to have now is this dynamic view where right now you have the ability, if you right click, to either pin. So if I pin somebody, what that does is for me. So let's just say one of you pin somebody, that means that they will stay up on the screen. If as the presenter, if I spotlight somebody, then that will put them on your screen that would be for everybody who's attending the meeting. And so it gives the presenter the ability to really keep someone spotlighted. Now we're adding a capability to spotlight multiple individuals. So you could have your primary presenter and then someone who is providing accessibility services through American Sign Language also spotlighted so that the two could be together. We are also adding extensibility for the platform to have partners build in their applications into Teams. And so I heard about one where today I just learned about this. Let's see, so someone spotlighted me, where you can actually have the sign language right here, and then the sign language you can pick even which language that you want to see. And so if you had multiple signing for multiple languages, then you could pick which language and which stream you would want to have. So some very interesting things to kind of take Teams to the next level. So that it will be easier to use, easier to control the content that you're seeing, and then easier to provide accessibility services for those of us, the millions of people with disabilities who are in the workforce. Talked about breakout rooms. I was just speaking about the partners. You all have seen the preview of the live captions with speaker attributions, so that'll be coming. And then where this is one that's really interesting and exciting. So Teams meetings are growing to support up to 1,000 participants. When we all started using Teams, it was, I think, at 200 and then 250, and now it's 300. And so at the end of the year, and we're working on the infrastructure to do this, we'll be scaling up to 1,000 participants. There is also going to be a new advanced communications plan, which will be an additional SKU where if you need to have very large audiences, then you can actually have up to 1,000 people in a Teams meeting, and then you can scale to up to 20,000 participants in a view-only experience. And so if you were having something like a public-facing meeting and you were expecting 10,000+ people, then you would have your group in Teams that could interact, and then you would have the broader community that are in a listen-only mode. So I thought that was a very interesting expansion of some of the current capabilities. Any questions about that? So there's lots more, and when you're on this book of news, if you click this learn more about this update, then it takes you to another site which has just more content about that. And then that wasn't exactly what I was looking for. There's another link that I will send you. Yeah, I'll have to find the link. There's another link that where it takes you to a bunch of new information that is available and new capabilities inside of Teams. And so I will include that link in the meeting notes. I think it was actually one of the hyperlinks that were further up in the book of news. But if you explore these, learn more about this update, then there's quite a bit of additional features and content that you can find out about. Okay, so I'm going to fly through these because I basically covered the things that were here. I wanted to put them in the slides so that for those of you who don't go out, then you'll have this included, some of these major announcements in the slides. And then, so on to kind of our next section. As I said earlier, many of you have used the customer success training. This is training that is included with your relationship with Microsoft. And so that means there is no charge for this training. And what I'd love to do now is introduce Jessica Trinetz and ask her to come off of mute. Jessica is the lead for public sector for the customer success training. And Jessica, are you still there?
I sure am. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. And
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Jessica, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe give a little bit of history, and then we can go into some of the slides about the training that's available and the expansion of what's available?
Absolutely. Not a problem. So first of all, thank you all very much. Like Michael had said, my name is Jessica Chernitz. I work on the Microsoft Impacting Enterprise team, focusing on our customer success training program. As of September, I am now the lead for public sector and government agencies worldwide. Just to give you a little bit of background, I've been with Microsoft for about 5.5 years. I don't know if anybody's able to pick up on my accent, but I am from New Jersey, soon to also be headed down to Texas in the Austin area. So really excited about that. Some of the work that we've been doing in the public sector, just to give you all some numbers, I'm a numbers person. So our training program, which includes 2 of the individuals that are on this call today, supporting both Sandra and Greg on our training team. But collectively, we have trained over 226 agencies, and that's just state and local government like yourselves. We've conducted 3,167 sessions, and that has accumulated over 136,963 total attendees. And that number continues to climb. My role is to make connections, be your voice, understand your pain points from a training perspective, bring it back to our team, and make sure that we are able to supply our trainers, like Greg and Sandra, all of the information that they need to be excellent in driving a white glove time you choose to leverage our program. Do you have the next slide? All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shar. I'm really excited. I don't know too much about the Austin area. I actually got introduced to Michael by my boss because he knew I was going down to Austin. So really excited. We're probably going to be headed to the Round Rock area. But again, that's soon to come. So again, this is what we call our one-pager. This is something that you can actually leverage within your own agencies. It's a very high-level one-pager that really talks about the program holistically. So our program, again, it's just a reiteration. I'm sure I know some of you have been leveraging it, but those who have not, this is kind of for you. It is a flexible format. We primarily start with the modern workplace solutions. So those are the terms such as, OneNote, Planner, Microsoft Teams. All of our sessions are a minimum of 60 minutes. I usually recommend the sweet spot of 90. But what I'm super excited about is because of the feedback that we do get, this is how we expand our program. I am happy to announce that I actually personally our accessibility program. Before my life at Microsoft, I actually was a special education teacher. Working in the retail space in New Jersey as a community development specialist at the time, my goal was to bring technology to our individuals within the community that need to learn more about how technology can help them in a more diverse and inclusive environment. I've taken that passion and brought it over to this side, piloted a accessibility customer success training agendas with our federal government space. So actually going into that GCC high space and landing it so well that it is now offered as a part of our content globally. So I was super excited actually when Michael was talking about it, when he was sharing with you some of the features about ASL, my face lit up because that is something that I think is so important, ever so now more, because we are in a virtual world. We have our EDAD and DAD support, so that's Enterprise Disability Answer Desk, as well as our Disabilities Answer Desk, that we are able to bring our enterprise customers, such as yourself, as well as individuals, to get some help. But that has been flooding, and they are saying, hey, we need to help our customers. We really do need to empower everyone, and this is how we can do it. In addition to that, we also have expanded to our Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, and as of Monday, Teams as a platform. I'm going to pause there. I do see on the corner of my eye some things coming up. Is there anything? Are there any? I'm just looking. Thank you, Sandra and Greg, for helping moderate some of this for me. Do I see any? Us meeting public sector. Yes.
This is Joy. If I
Hi.
could chime in.
Sure.
This group is wonderful. They do so much. I know they do some really dedicated, more in-depth training specifically for agencies that request it. Most recently with DIR, we've been doing a series called Teams Talk. And Greg has been our lead, but I think that there's several others working on it too. But Greg Stevens has been leading it. And with that one, what we've done is we've asked them to take just a piece of Teams, because it can be kind of overwhelming, to just take one piece, focus on that, give us the 30-minute deep dive, 45 minutes at most, with some Q&A, look at it, and done. And so the first time, I think we did chat. And then I can't remember, Greg, I'm losing track. But
no, we did. Yeah, we did chat. We did Teams on the second one, and then we've got meetings coming up.
Yeah, we're going to. I had us to back off using the word meetings, because team meetings, I mean, that phrase, it almost becomes meaningless. We're using it so much. But we're focusing on calendar on October 28th. So join us, a nice 30, 45-minute session. You can go to the DIR calendar. I'll put in a link.
No, thank you so much. And I think that that's a really great point to kind of talk on. One of the benefits of our program is the amount of customization that is really involved in it. And our team, like Greg and Sandra, are empowered to make sure that whatever success looks like for you, that we customize that for all of our sessions. I also have, and I'll be sending it out, and I think just let me know what would be the best way. Michael, we can talk about that. I do have a content catalog. The content catalog is a beautiful, there it is. So this is something that I'll be able to email out to all of you. Again, this is a holistic view of each one of the topics. So Teams, if you were to say, I want to learn about what is Teams L100, my personal opinion, I call it getting to know the features and functions, right? That's your start. And it gives you the objectives, what you would learn by attending that specific course, but still keep in mind that it will be customized based off of the GCC environment. So perfect. Yeah. So the SharePoint, again, we do have, it's 3 pages, so that's why we'll be able to send it out. Actually, if I can possibly upload it here as well. And again, talking about the Power Platform, showing the Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps, and then right into my personal favorite, the Microsoft 365 accessibility. If anybody is interested in the accessibility specific training, please reach out to me directly. I will put my email address in here for you all. There we go. I think I did it right. There we go. So yeah, so if anybody's interested in the accessibility portion, please let me know directly. And then could you, I believe there's one more, Michael?
Yes, there you go.
Awesome. And then this is the last one, talking about the other Microsoft 365 applications, such as Bookings, OneNote, OneDrive, Outlook, Outlook Mobile. We release content and continue to build content all the time. One of my focuses being in government is I actually have a dedicated content creator to all things government. So if there is something that you are interested, if there is something on your roadmap, please connect with Michael, or you could reach out to me. And then we'll make sure that we're getting what you're looking for added to our list of content that needs to be built out. I'm going to pause for any questions. Please feel free to come off mute if that's okay.
I'm going to jump in
absolutely.
as well, Jessica. So
Yeah.
hi, everyone. This is Greg. I know I've worked personally with a lot of you. We actually received this on Monday, so I'm going to upload this document to the chat for us. So if any of
Beautiful.
you, I know I've already talked to some of you and you've received this new kind of content catalog already, but if you have not and are interested, I'm uploading it to the chat right now so you can have access to it.
Greg, you're the
Sometimes,
best.
Greg, I'm seeing that they're not able to download because they're, they're not
External.
guests. Yeah, because they're external. So we will be sending out the PDF of the new content catalog, as well as the other links. Either I'll reply to the meeting request or Joy will send that out with the slides, the links, and this additional content, as well as one thing I forgot to show was a PDF of all of the sessions for teams that were at Ignite. And so that's a clickable link, and it'll take you right to the recording of each of the sessions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So are there a minimum number of people required for these trainings? So there are no minimum requirements. This program is free for all of our enterprise customers to leverage. The only thing that I usually do is I would ask, what's the appetite? Like, really want to make sure that we're leveraging and maximizing on the opportunity. To answer your question, no, there is no minimum requirement. However, with other agencies that I've worked with in the in various states, we usually see around a minimum. We usually see around 50 people per session attending those trainings. And yes, the trainings are 100% free.
Are the trainings available on demand, or these are live training?
So these are all live trainings. We can enable them to be on demand, but the on demand would be accessed only if it was a Teams live event, and it's only available for 180 days. Our events are live. Exactly what you're seeing now, we're going to share our screen, little PowerPoint, and we're going to cater and do our live trainings to be exactly what's on the agenda that we all discussed during that, what we call a discovery.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. You might want to, who can request training? I'm just looking at some.
Yeah, we've seen with some agencies we'll schedule out where we have multiple trainings pre-scheduled. And so, the thing that we would ask is there's more demand than there are slots available. And so, sometimes Greg and his team here in the Austin marketplace get booked out for, they're booking out for a month. And so, we would just request that y'all put some intensity into marketing to your employees that this training is going to be available. And we could certainly provide you with email templates and ways that you can drive attendance. And ways that you can use Teams to drive attendance for this. We would just ask you to kind of make use of the resource if we schedule the times. If 50 or more people is a great measure, so that we don't end up with 5 people in a meeting.
Absolutely.
And Craig just said we have lots of availability for November and December, so we're ready for requests. And
I love it.
With Jessica scaling this out more nationally, one of the challenges that we had in the past, which has actually created an opportunity, was that we would deliver these in person, and we were really only able to deliver locally because there wasn't any sort of a travel budget. So now that in these COVID times and everybody's working remotely, we deliver these remotely. And so it has given us more scale because people from other regions can deliver. But it does still cap out because it's a pretty popular program.
Absolutely. I think it was one of those, it was a blessing and a curse at the same time. So again, eventually, and I think that the other benefit of doing something like this and having this community, like Michael, this is amazing what you do. You actually will we like to build relationships with you. We want to be a part of your digital transformation journey. You know, of course, we're always going to say if you only want one, that's fine, but we want to be a part of that journey with you. And then eventually, whenever we do go back to an in-person model, you will get to see Greg, you'll get to see Sandra, and we'll be able to have that classroom style or in-person training that we originally had this program built out for. Yeah. I'm going to put some slides. I just took some snips just to kind of give you an idea of maybe you don't know where to start if this is something that's new for you. You know,
stop sharing, Jessica, so you can share.
Oh,
is that what you're asking for? Or?
Oh, I was taking snips of my PowerPoint and I was going to put it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So, but what I'm putting in the chat are just for you to digest and to say, okay, I want to start, but I don't know where to start. So this is something that you could look at. I'm going to put the first one in here. Here we go. So the first one that I just sent is, again, it's for you to kind of take and say, okay, if I'm trying to drive a dynamic workspace for my teams when it comes to chat, meeting, and collaboration, then the training that we could provide to you would be the 3 listed below. If you're looking to talk about more of collaboration, maybe we understand the features and functions. What's next? That's when we can talk about Teams as a platform. And then simplification, connecting with existing apps in a new way to make it easier to get valuable work done. That's when we talk about the Power Apps. The second thing I'm going to send you again is going to talk about it's a nice 1-pager laid out. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. This is just again talking about getting started. If we're going to talk about Teams, where do I start? Level 100 again, like I usually call it, my getting to know features and functions. You're not seeing them in the chat at Eduardo, you said? You're not seeing, or is anybody else seeing my snips?
Yeah, I don't see them.
You may need to scroll down. I'm seeing them come in. What I did is sometimes sometimes I have a glitch where the chat in my Teams client doesn't actually show the latest updates. And so what I'll do is I'll just toggle over. If you now have the pop out where your meetings are popped out in the second window,
yeah,
I'll just pop over and I'll look in chat. Here, I'll show this to you real quick. Sorry. Yeah, so if I'm not seeing them in my meeting itself, I'll pop over and I'll go into chat and I'll have the chat that's going on in this meeting, and then you can see it here. And there are the posts that Jessica made.
All right, I'll try that.
It's software, so it's not perfect. But,
no worries.
I usually, listen, don't even worry about it. I'm the least technologically savvy person you'll ever meet. And usually I say problem exists between chair and keyboard. That's me. So don't worry, it's okay. And the last post I'm going to share is going to be after we've done the level 100. We call it the Teams Continued Learning. Again, we talk about Microsoft Teams. So again, just kind of breaking it into different digestible, snackable versions for you. Everyone is at a different place. Everybody learns differently. And that's one of my huge advocacies, especially when it comes to the accessibility piece. So please take that. If there's any other things that you need, obviously reach out to Michael if you are interested in any of these programs. Michael is your main point of contact, and he has both myself as well as Greg and Sam, and we will collectively be able to support you. The last thing I wanted to talk about was accessibility, and I wanted to preface something. A lot of people assume when they hear the terms accessibility, that directly means it's for someone with a disability. That's not true. 70% of our workers have an underlying condition, whether it is a visible condition, an invisible condition, or a temporary condition that will somehow alter the way that they need to consume information and provide information out. My biggest thing about the accessibility piece is if you are creating a document, especially now, and you're sending that document out, do you know how to make it accessible? Are you aware of some of the features that are in your yes, I couldn't agree more. I think accessibility is super important for everyone, especially now. A lot of my friends who are special ed teachers get calls every day from their parents because now we're in a remote space and they're not sure how to help their child. Technology is something that is so powerful as long as we know how to use it in the right way. So when you look at accessibility, it's not just for the end user. I personally think that everyone that talks to another person or sends out a document or shares a PowerPoint presentation should understand the features that are available to make sure that their content is accessible. So I just kind of wanted to leave it at that. So you are not subject to just one. I highly encourage everyone to take advantage of the accessibility programs that we have. Yes, Billy, always. Accessibility is a huge piece. I have seen, personally, for transparency, I am an individual who have something called a hidden disability. I am dyslexic. I am really, really dyslexic. So I was able to find when I went to Microsoft, and I've lived in this world of, all right, Jess, you got to figure it out. And I have. If I told you the ways, you'd be like, wow, how'd you do that? But I did it. I even did it when I went to college. So it can be done. Now I use Immersive Reader. It is my best friend. And it is something that I personally use to make my work more productive. You could only imagine the things that when I look at something, what it actually appears to be. But even just understanding that certain fonts when we type are not accessible for an individual like myself. Now I'll figure out a way to read it, but just keeping it in the back of your mind, knowing that there are fonts out there that just aren't very visually appealing for someone who is dyslexic or low vision. Just kind of throwing some stuff out there. As you can see, I'm very passionate about this topic. And I also, if there is anything you are looking for that is not a part of this, please let Michael know. He will tell me and I'll make sure to add it to our content creation. Is there any other questions that anybody may have? Again, if you think of anything at the time, please feel free to email Michael and he can connect with me as well.
Is
Jessica, thank you
everybody
so much.
that works at Microsoft as awesome as y'all, or is it like personal things and they were just finding the right people? Like, is there some training class I can take to capture this, or what? Like, that's the session I want to see.
Billy, I just hang out with us all day. It'll rub off.
You know,
Did
it's
you just offer me a job? Because that's what it sounded like.
that's what it sounded like.
Is this recorded?
You know, we have a very diverse, in every way, workforce, and we have developers that that stay in a dark cave and you slip them pizza under the door. We have people like Jessica who are just gangbusters, like super energetic personalities, and so it takes all kinds especially in an organization as large as Microsoft. But we have a very strong belief in, as well as very action oriented from the very top down in diversity and inclusion. And so we have a lot of training that's been going on with regard to that, especially with the things that are going on in the world right now. And so if you go out to look at Microsoft's blogs about diversity and inclusion, D&I, you will see a whole lot. And we're really trying to be leaders around diversity in every way, shape, and form, as Jessica has said. It's pretty cool. And if you didn't hear, months ago we announced that we were going to be carbon neutral, which means that Microsoft would not be emitting. We would be carbon neutral. We also said that we were going to be carbon negative. So we were going to erase all of the excess carbon that we had emitted into the environment back to the beginning of Microsoft. We also just announced that we are going to be water neutral, And so, which we run huge data centers which consume water. There's just a lot of water that's used. Microsoft offices throughout the world. We are also announcing that we are going to be water neutral. I don't remember when that was by. It may have been 2025. Apologies, I don't remember the exact number.
2025. You were right. Yep.
Yeah. And so, it's, you guys are doing business with a company that really cares about the world. It cares about where we're going, cares about how we get there. And so we appreciate y'all as customers. And it's an exciting time to be working together for sure.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Billy.
Thank you. Real quick, just to answer, thank you, Sandra, for mentioning me. The information that is being shared, so there was a one-pager before, and then this document, it will be sent via an email. If you are interested in any of the topics that we have to offer for your agency or a specific business unit, please contact Michael directly, and he will then connect you with one of our training leads like Greg and Sandra, who are on the call right now. Does that help you, Erica? I saw the question. I apologize. Okay. Is there any other questions that you have for me? And again, Michael, thank you so much for having me on your call. I'm really excited. I love talking about accessibility, as you know, and I think everybody here now knows that. But I am also want to make sure that we are hearing what you as our customers have to say and what you want, and make sure that we can deliver that for you. So I just want to say thank you.
And I visited with the DIR about putting together some sort of an accessibility event where we highlight some of the training that's available, the features that are available, but then also bring in some of our partners from the Austin area and community who have been really focused on accessibility. And so if you are interested in an accessibility event, what we would think we would do is we would make it like a one-day event where we would not only talk about the capabilities and features in the Microsoft platform for accessibility, but would also talk about bring in maybe Adobe to talk about how do you make PDFs accessible, and bring in some experts who really advise agencies on accessibility. We have a local partner here in Austin, MicroAssist, who has been working in this space for decades, and they have hundreds of years of experience on the, if you add up all the people in their staff. So if you're interested in that, please put a comment into the field. And we might even, if you're interested in contributing some thoughts as to what that might look like, if you'll put that into the comments as well, then we might just reach out to you and ask for what would really help you. So we've done some really interesting session with HHSC that Pamela Hammond put together, and Janelle Paul participated in, and they have a team of people with accessibility that help drive accessibility. So if you're interested, let us know. We are planning on hopefully bringing that to you this kind of fall winter timeframe before the Christmas break. We just had a lot of conferences go back to back to back, and it kept me from being able to put that together. So
Michael, let's ask them to put that in the comments on the sign-in sheet. There's a blog.
Oh, yeah.
What else you want? Let's put it there. Perfect. Then we'll have it all in one place.
That's a great idea, Joy. And if someone could, I posted the link. Janelle asked me about the link to the sign-in sheet. I posted it in the chat. If someone could cut and paste that into the chat again, then I am going to move forward. And again, thank you, Jessica, for joining us. It's awesome. Can't wait for you to be in Texas.
I know, I'm really excited. Thank you so much. I apologize. I do have to drop for another meeting. Again, if there's anything I can do, please let me know. But again, your best point of contact for anything that has to do with our program will go directly to Michael, and he will make sure to connect with myself, Greg, and Sandra to deliver your trainings. And just to let you know, I do see somebody just said accessibility on Teams is new to many of us. All of our agendas on accessibility walk you through, have a portion of Teams and how to use it in an accessible way, so you are aware. Thank you again, all. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to continue to working with you. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So last month, we talked to the city of Austin about using Teams as a platform and really building business solutions on top of Teams. And they went through the county court system that they had built, and David Gottlieb went in and did just a great job sharing. And so we really start with the business scenario and build the case based on how are your people getting work done today? what are the pain points in the current work process, which apps and services do they need in order to get that work done, and then which of those applications are available in Teams. So what I'd like to do now is introduce you to our next guests. Actually, sorry, but right before I do that, we now have available what is called a solution design workshop. And so when we look at leveraging this methodology of starting with a business scenario, the solution design workshop is explicitly designed to do that, is to go through what you're doing, how you're doing it, really capture what are called personas, like what are the different types of people that are interacting with this business process, and then look at the building blocks of how we could leverage Teams to help you do that more efficiently. So we'll develop personas, user stories, and the output of that will be a report that really helps us understand where we could go. Now, that is not implementation. That is not even like building a project plan. It's really getting us to the point of understanding the problem. And this is a 4-hour workshop, and it is also something that we are providing at no cost. So we did a very abbreviated version of this. We didn't have the solution design workshop a month ago, and it's actually been created because there's been so many customers that wanted to do things on Teams, but didn't really know how to get started. So if you're interested in this, then please email me, put in the subject line your agency name and solution design workshop so it doesn't get buried in the emails, and I can follow up with you. And so this could be something that is very broad reaching across your agency, or something maybe targeted for a specific group that has a very specific need, not something tiny, because there's, these take a while. And so we only have so many people that can deliver them. But if it's something that you feel would be impactful to your organization, bring it up to me, and then we will look at this process and how we can use this or other approaches to help you understand how to use Teams to do that. So, talking about stories from the field and looking at business scenarios, I'd like to invite to welcome, I should say, Jacob Singleton, who is the Operations Section Director for the Fleet Operations Division at the Texas Department of Transportation. Jacob, if you'll come off mute, I saw that you and Bob are on the line. Are you still available and you still here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right.
Michael, just FYI for you, I've got a hard drop at about 4:25. It's just coincidence. I'm actively working a storm right now. So just so you know, I've got another meeting right after this.
Okay, Jacob. Well, we will finish at 4:25, and then we can do the wrap up for the session. So thank you for letting me know. Jacob sent me an email earlier today. Hey, we got this storm brewing, and if it gets worse, and it gets worse in a hurry, I may not be able to join you, which I made me a little nervous that I was going to go through all this content by myself. But thank you for joining, Jacob. And so when we were, we're in hurricane season, as many of you know, and you may or may not know that TxDOT has this group called the Fleet Operations Division, and they really help with the hurricane response. And Jacob, do you mind sharing a little bit about what FOD does, and kind of and what y'all do a little more broadly, and then what you do specifically around hurricanes?
Absolutely. So what we do is really provide logistic support to all the divisions and the frontline workers out in the field, actually clearing the roads and assisting the public. I oversee 29 shops across the state, about 12,000 pieces of equipment, and we actively coordinate the movement of mechanics and equipment to the response areas.
Yeah, and when one of these events occurs, when they occurred in the past, y'all had a physical in-person emergency operations center. And if you don't mind describing a little bit, like what did that look like, and what would y'all do, and then we can talk a little bit about what happened and with COVID and what we needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Prior to the COVID environment, when we'd have a storm come up, we would go to what we call a staging area. And really the members of our staff that responded to the event would all huddle up in a conference room. And that was kind of what we called our war room. We had whiteboards and such all around us. And that's really where we coordinated all these events. Now, when COVID came around, that became a little bit more of a challenge, kind of like you mentioned.
Yeah, and we had a Hurricane Hannah, back on July 23rd, and in the conversations we had, the Fleet Operations Division, the FOD, y'all saw some, while you were prepared for the event and you handled it fine, you saw some opportunities where being remote and not being in the same room and the manual processes made it much more challenging. And that invited an opportunity for us to have a conversation about some of those challenges. So maybe you could just highlight a couple of those challenges y'all had, and then we could talk about the conversation we had and how that went.
Well, the biggest challenge really was communicating information to multiple people at one time. And the problem is when you're actively working a storm, as a lot of people know, the information changes very rapidly. So what is relevant right now may not be relevant 2 minutes from now. So, managing phone lines, getting multiple people on conference calls tended to be problematic, because then you'd have to go back and revisit some items that are no longer relevant 2 minutes later.
Yeah, and that is a very rapid pace of change. And so the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, has a group called the Business Relationship Management Group. And so I've been fortunate enough to work with them, and they're led up by Leisha, and she has a whole team of individuals who work with her, Leisha Johnson. And so Bijal, who works with the fleet operations, and Leisha and Chantel Romero reached out and said, we think that there is an opportunity to leverage teams more effectively. And so we had a call with Bob White and with Jacob and many of the other members of the FOD team to really talk about some of the challenges, the way that they work. And again, we went through that process of looking at what is the business need. Sorry, as I skip back to that, there's a lot of builds on those slides. Sorry about that. And what is that business need, and how are things being done, and where's the pain, and then what can we do to improve that process. And so we had a call on August 11th where we went through all of this and we listed it out. And then what we sought to do is to map the current manual processes to capabilities that they had inside of the platform. There was not an interest in doing a bunch of custom application development or building a virtual emergency operations center from scratch. It was really, how do we leverage the capabilities that we already have? And I knew that there was a lot of things that we had mapped out, which was exciting. And then I thought, it would take a few weeks and we would get back together. Well, I heard back from Jacob and from Bijal that we had a hurricane coming in, and they were going to use their virtual emergency operations center. And so I was very excited for that. But so Hurricane Hannah hit August 27th, which was really 16 days after the initial conversation. And I was so impressed with how quickly the Fleet Operations Division and TxDOT responded and built out their solution. And so what I'd love to do is just kind of go through the different pieces of the solution and talk a little bit about what y'all did and how you did it, and what the benefit was. And so the first thing to really note is that these are all out-of-the-box capabilities. So there's nothing custom that was built. And so we have the ability to do that, but we didn't need to. And so Jacob, maybe you could talk about the structure that you put together and why you built it the way you built it, and what some of those channels were used for.
Sure. So within our response team, we have several different branches, and these tabs or these channels that are indicated on this presentation kind of show those different branches. So a lot of communications going on during a storm. So I wanted a way to make sure that everybody could see the information that they needed, but just didn't get bombarded with unnecessary information. So I kind of created a separate channel for each branch of the support team where they can have conversations, but me as a person overseeing the whole operation, I can go in and I can pick out the relevant information and feel like I'm up to date. So that was really kind of the thought process behind setting up the channel.
And previously, this had been done with emails, file shares. How would you communicate along all these different variety of topics?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were basically sending emails back and forth, during HANA, during the first event. And what the problem was is making sure you had the most current information. It was kind of death by spreadsheet there for a little while, but using this helped us. And I think we're going to get to this in a minute, but actually the live feature on the spreadsheet where multiple people can edit a spreadsheet at the same time, just
Jump to that.
Tremendous for us.
Yeah, so I went ahead and jumped forward on that, and that was something that y'all had expressed when we had that first meeting was having a spreadsheet that's attached to an email and then emailed around. It gets out of date really quickly, but then having a static spreadsheet at the Emergency Operations Center when everybody used to be able to be together and you had that up on a big monitor, that worked pretty well, but everybody wasn't together, and it was much more challenging. And so I love the way that y'all use the co-authoring to bring multiple people in and have multiple people updating it and being able to see it real time, whether you were on a PC, a Mac, or if you were in the field and you were looking at it from your mobile phone.
Correct. Yeah, it worked out well. It really did.
And then having the different channels, you had also talked about the way that you leverage chat in the different channels to segment conversations and then also to keep them linear and less confusing.
Right. So part of it is needing to, like you're alluding to, is needing to go back and review, well, how did we get to this point? And that was what we're kind of showing here now. It was also a good way to communicate who was working what shifts. We actually had some spreadsheets embedded into the chat, but because of policy reasons, I couldn't share some of that information. But we'd actually post those spreadsheets within the chat, and everybody could go back, refer to, see this person's working this shift. We know we're not going to wake up somebody in the middle of the night. But also just an overall review at the end of the day. And in our, we do what's called a hot wash after each event, just to kind of review everything, see what we could do better. And this actually helped us do that, go back, review the chat lines, identify problems, and talk about them post-event.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and then and I've found that this persistence of chat is you can also go back in a couple of events later, you could actually refer back to this. And we had talked about the idea that when the next event occurs, you would just create a separate team site with the same channel structure. And so everybody would step into it knowing what they were looking for and then able to have, again, that record of what was done in the past. And there was also documents, these sit reps, the situation reports. Do you mind talking about how you did this and how y'all use these and how you use the repositories, the file repositories?
Sure. So every shift that we work 12-hour shifts, 24 hours a day during a storm, and every shift we require each shop to submit a sit rep that basically just gives us an overview or a summary of what's going on, what activities they completed, and any issues they're encountering so we can get them addressed, any outstanding needs. And we wanted a repository for that stuff just so that everybody involved in the response team can see it and refer to it, because each branch of this response team pulls different information off of that sit rep and uses it to coordinate their activities and how we respond. So we wanted one place to keep that stuff. So basically, the channel we chose for that is the operations updates channel. We just posted them in the file section, and every member on the team gets a notification, obviously, anytime we post something. So they would know that, hey, go look, let me see if there's an action for me on there, any need, and then they would get it addressed.
Yeah, I really like that. And then I did note, again, they didn't have some sort of complex workflow engine or something that was doing this. We could automate some of these tasks, but literally they would email this to someone and they would drop it in. But instead of everybody trying to track all these documents in an email thread, one person got them, dropped them into the channel, into the files, and then you were able to have them available to everybody. And here's an example of one of those SITREP situation reports. This is a blank one, sort of the template, but just really spells out what all they would have in there. One of the other things that I really thought was clever and creative is the use of the additional tabs. And so where one of the things we talk about when using Teams is how do you keep your people in the context of the work that they're trying to do. And so I love that y'all took the this weather service. And why did you incorporate that, and what was the benefit of having that built right into the team?
Well, it was really intended for our frontline workers, the folks out in the field. Obviously, they can get on the Teams app with their cell phone and they can check current status of where the storm is tracking. Now, I know they can go into the National Weather Service and click through multiple links or have it bookmarked, but we wanted one place where everybody could kind of see everything. They can look at all the chats, they can see the weather without switching back and forth through applications on the cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we've also seen is, if you have something that maybe was built inside of SharePoint that's internal, you can actually take a SharePoint app in the modern user interface, and you can pin that now to this what we call the left rail in Teams. So it wasn't what we needed to do here, because the whole idea was to have this in the context of the Virtual Emergency Operations Center. But if you have a site like your learning site or maybe your ServiceNow IT portal or something, you can actually pin something over here and make it accessible to everybody in your organization or just a group. But I love the way that you incorporated this into the structure and made it easy for people on their mobile devices and the frontline workers. And then as the post event, I know that there's some reports that you guys have to do, and maybe how you leverage Teams to create those reports and track information.
Sure. So we have to complete some FEMA reporting. They want to know, what resources TxDOT has committed to any one particular storm. And we actually collect that data throughout the event. The impacted districts or impacted shops will send in what we call a committed resources report. And that's just via spreadsheet. And we have someone consolidate that on the backside and post that information on one of the files locations in Teams. It's actually on what we call our parts and committed resources channel. And what that is there's multiple people, again, that pull off of that information. So rather than sending multiple emails and folks trying to remember, okay, this is the most current email, this is the one I need to go off of, I wanted a central place to where people can see this was last updated, this date, that's displayed right by it. And they can tell how current the information is, and they know they are getting the right information.
Excellent. Yeah. Those are all the slides we had, and I know Jacob only has about 4 more minutes. But does anybody want to come off of mute? Do you have any questions about sort of the thought process they went through or how they leverage Teams? Would welcome anybody from the community to ask questions.
Hats off, though. It's quite brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're using it the same way in different program formulas, but you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Char. Thank you, Jonathan.
This is Joy. At one time, we talked about using one of the affiliated Office 365 apps for shift scheduling. Currently, when we participate in SOC, we just use a spreadsheet. I was curious if you moved to anything like that beyond it. Michael, what was the one we were looking at? You knew.
Yeah, it's called shifts. You had it exactly right. There's shifts can be used to schedule staff, and then bookings can be used for someone to schedule themselves to do something. Though they have sort of different applications. Bookings creates a website where people can schedule themselves, like to come to an appointment with epidemiologist or something like that. And then shifts is what you're talking about. You got a group of people, you got people that want to work, you have people that might want to trade shifts with each other. Yeah, Shar, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, we tried to use shifts and we put it all together, but for some reason we couldn't get the functionality to actually publish our shift to the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was something that administration had turned off or if that was something that was not quite put together correctly for us. But we attempted it and we ended up having to move into something else. That just to answer your question, if anybody tried.
Yeah, sure. So I see that you're at TCEQ. If you want to reach out to me, we actually have a training on shifts. I think I saw, or I know I saw bookings. Greg, do we have shifts as well?
I don't know if it's one that's officially offered, so I wouldn't say that, as far as Jessica's program for all of the teams to offer it, but I know that my team does offer it specifically. We do have it.
Okay, so Char, we could get some training for y'all on how to do that, and then we could also work with your IT group. Your CSAM, your customer success account manager, Natalie Burko, could she has some people that could help make sure from a back end and a tenant administrator standpoint that's set up correctly. Well, I know we're 1 minute before 4:25. Jacob, I really want to thank you, Bob White, and the whole organization over at the TxDOT and Fleet Operations Division, one, for using the platform so creatively, but also for being willing to share with the community.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the chance to visit.
Absolutely. So if there are other agencies who are interested in sharing a use case like that, again, as you see, the things that David did last month, where he used Power BI and Power Automate and used Power Platform to develop a user input screen, we're interested in something that is like that. We're interested in things that are using the baseline capabilities. So if in your evaluation, there we go. If you would like to put in there that you have a use case and maybe briefly describe it, then what I'll do is I'll follow up with you, and we'll look at getting that scheduled for you to be, or someone in your organization. You don't have to be the one to speak about it, but if there's someone that would be willing to share what y'all are doing, and you feel would be comfortable getting up in front of an audience, then we'd love to visit with you about that. And if you don't have something that you've already done, but you are interested in working with Microsoft and some people who are really experts in the Teams platform, what can be done, but really pulling out what are the business needs and who are the people that would use it. Those are the personas. And then what are the user stories about how they would use it and what they would do. Again, this is that process, the solution design workshop, it's not, these are typically designed without the end in mind. Now, a lot of times we know we're going to be using Teams or the O365 capabilities because that's what we're focused on here. But there could be other things that we incorporate, third-party applications or other workflows. So this can be pretty broad. This wouldn't be to take on some massive application that you're building, but would be, again, more for these more point solutions or targeted solutions. If you have anything around return to work, COVID, business processes, frontline workers, like what we did with TxDOT, anything along that line, would really welcome you to share that and then to request one of these solution design workshops. And again, the price is right on those. So again, if you don't mind filling out the evaluation, how we did today, put your interest with regard to an accessibility conference, and if you'd be willing to visit what your agency is doing with accessibility, and maybe let us know about what some of the things that you'd like included in the accessibility conference, then we would absolutely love that feedback. We'd also love the feedback on how we're doing. And with that, I think we are at a wrap. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And you're welcome to come off mute, and you can put them into the chat or just speak right up.
I think you filled up our brains too much, Michael.
It was. I warned you at the beginning. It was going to be a lot of stuff today. Yeah. Thank you all again so much. This community is just it's a real passion of mine. I love that y'all are willing to come month after month and share what's going on. So thank you again for being part of the community.
And Michael, thank you for all you do. This is Joy on behalf of DIR. Microsoft is offering the state an incredible amount of free resources and training. They've made a really smart move about not just trying to sell us their product, but trying to engage us and train us to where we use the products well. And they're making a huge investment in that, and we are very, very appreciative because, you know, our budgets are usually lacking when it comes to this training part.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of budgets, we all know that that it is not going to be pretty when the legislature gives us our new budgets after the session, and we know that the tax dollars are down because of everything going on with COVID. So you know, as we work together to look at ways that we can use the software you're already paying for to either decrease cost, increase efficiency, or just flat out replace things you're spending money on, we welcome those conversations, and we would love to help you any way we can. You know, you're already paying for it, so let's make full use of it. So thanks, Joy.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Y'all have a
you
great
all.
weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.